I was very homesick for a while because I just wasn't used to being away from home. So, you know, I would get down sometime and miss all my friends back home. But at the same time, something was happening in me and I was growing up.
The first time I met her was when she and Bibi, of course, came to PTL as singers, and she was very young. She was probably 16, 17 years old. And she was young. She wore no makeup. I remember she wore no makeup. She wore no pants. I remember little things that she would and wouldn't do.
So it's funny because one night, Bibi came in real late. He came in late, and he knocked on my door, and I was like, "What do you want? What do you want? I'm asleep." He says, "CeCe, you're not gonna believe it." I'm like, "What?" And I got so scared, I got so nervous because he had this look on his face like he had just did the worst sin in the world, right? I'm like, "Oh my God." And I'm a quick crier. I can cry at the drop of a hat. And I'm like, "Oh my God, what did you do? What did you do?" He said, "You're not gonna believe it." I said, "What?" He said, "I went to a movie."
I heard my father's voice, you know, saying, my kids don't go to the movies. And while I was watching this movie, I was like, this ain't wrong. It's a nice little flick. Okay, he's flying over the moon, E.T. phone home. He ain't did no wrong.
Not too long after that, probably a few weeks, I don't know, we were off and my girlfriend was like, "Look, we're taking you to your first movie." I'm like, "Y'all, come on." And Tootsie had just came out.
She called Mom Winans and talked to Mom Winans about going to see Tootsie. It was like, it's Tootsie, you know, how bad can Tootsie be? But it was just real cute that she was real worried about going to a movie. And I remember we went to see Tootsie, and, you know, of course, Tootsie was fine. And, you know, now you can't get her out of makeup or get her out of pants. And it's just kind of funny to see how she's progressed through the years.
Well, I went home to visit, and all the young people had went out for an outing. I think they went bowling for an outing, and I went to the bowling alley to see all my friends, and went and saw all of them. And then I noticed this guy that was there too. I thought he was pretty cute.
And the first time I saw her, she didn't see me because I saw her on TV, you know. But the first time I met her was at a youth gathering at a bowling alley.
The next night, I went to church, and I walked in, and it was the same guy, like, standing right there. I was like, "You go here?" And he was like, "Yeah." And his name was Alvin Love. And, well, he smiled, and I said, "Well, he's real cute."
She had the qualities and all of the things that I would love to, you know, in the future probably marry, you know, so.
So I went back home to PTL. And I think it was the July 4th weekend was coming up, and my brothers, the Winans, were one of the main artists coming down to sing. And Alvin had became friends with my brother Ronald, and he came down that weekend with them.
It's kind of like a carnival atmosphere down there. A lot of people were visiting at the time. There was a lot going on. It was hot. And whenever we went down there with the Winans, it was always a group, you know. So every time I was CeCe, at this point, it was always a group of us. It was never just, you know, just she and I, always, you know, 4, 5, 6 people at least.
He said he wanted to come over and talk to me before we left. So I was like, "You want to come talk to me?" You know, I was acting like I was like totally dumb. Like I had no clue on what he wanted to talk about.
And this is when I told her that she was the type of person that I would love to marry.
When he came back, they were smitten, I guess, because the phone calls began and the visits began, and it went on from there.
Bell South made a lot of money off of me when I was in love with Alvin Love, and he was a long way away. Most of my checks went to the phone company. I was just like, Bibi was like, "Just give me your check."
Bibi and I would go out, and I'd be like, "Let's get CeCe to go," and he'd be like, "Girl, she talking to Alvin."
By this time, I'm at PTL probably for close to 3 years. And you go to feeling like it's time for something different. It's hard to explain. I was definitely falling in love, too, you know, with Alvin. This relationship has been going on for a little while now, flying back and forward home. So I'm thinking about that. But just feeling like it's time to move on from PTL.
When I went down there after we started becoming, close to becoming engaged, and she was letting them know that she was going to leave.
whether it was love, whether it was just felt it was just our time was up at BTL, we both was really in sync when it came to the decision of leaving.
I know my heart was broken.
Yeah, it was real emotional. It was real emotional when she left. I mean, for me it was. You know, she went off with Al, so that was the last thing she was thinking about, but I understand.
I felt like if BB and CeCe left, that we would have a great big hole in our midst.
The way it turned out, looks like they left just in time before all the trouble started.
It was 3 people in my life that had to be all the way for Alvin and I, for me to even proceed. And that was my pastor, who had been my pastor all of my life, and my mom and dad.
Oh man, I didn't feel good about that at all, you know, 'cause that's my first girl.
I told her if she felt she could handle it, then it was fine with me.
It took a while, but I got used to it. It took a while.
My brothers, we got different attitudes from all of them. I would have to say the majority of them were cool. I had 2 of them that was kind of rough, real rough. BB, of course, because we had became so close.
And all of a sudden, it went from liking to I'm getting married. And that was a shock.
And he just felt like Alvin was going to come in and just tear us apart, and he might not ever let you sing again, you know, with stuff like that. And then you had Ronald.
Ronald, the one who introduced him, he just looked like he was gonna die to hear that she was gonna get married.
It wasn't Alvin, and no, it wasn't CeCe. They had nothing to do with it. It was just, I guess, the idea that we losing her. You know, just had to come to grips with it. It just took some of us longer, that's all.
I think everybody was just wanting the best for CeCe. So it was out of a general concern for her that they had those feelings. It just took a couple of them longer to come around for whatever reason, but, you know, that was in the past. You know, now, you know, we're all, you know, we're family.